There hasn't been a cauldron like this since 2022. The entire Kurakov grouping of the AFU has been encircled, an unexpected breakthrough. Greetings, friends. You are on the Field Reports channel. Today we will discuss the situation in Ukraine as of December 17, 2024. A huge number of events have taken place today, so let's get started. Before we begin, I would sincerely like to ask you to subscribe to the channel. Your subscription helps the channel grow. Thanks to everyone who has subscribed. We'll start with the Kandar, southern Donetsk direction, where the armed forces of the Russian Federation continue their advance toward Velika Novosilka. Today, activity was noted both on the northwest and northeast flanks, near the village of Novy Komar, as well as on the southwest flank between the settlements of Makarivka and Starozheve. According to various cartographic services, pro-Russian, neutral and pro-Ukrainian, the Russian armed forces managed over the past 24 hours to push through the AFU defenses between the two settlements, cross the Mokry Yali River and secure positions along the road between Starozhev and Makarivka. This effectively places the AFU units in Makarivka in a very precarious position. Some sources report that Ukrainian units in Makarivka have already been encircled. That's according to pro-Ukrainian and neutral services. Pro-Russian sources, however, claim the complete clearing of the village. Either way, we await further confirmation as to whether any Ukrainian units remain there or not. We can see the direction of movement. The Russian army is currently focused on straightening the front line and regaining control of all settlements lost during the Ukrainian counter-offensive of 2023. The ultimate goal of this operation is to reach the M0510 highway between Velika Novosilka and Huliaipol. To summarize briefly, Russian units are moving in this direction, and all settlements along the Mokry Yali River will likely come under Russian control in the near future. Let's keep observing. Next, we move to the northeast flank, to the settlement of Novy Komar. Yesterday, information was published about the Russian army launching a large-scale offensive with the use of a huge amount of equipment. This attack occurred on December 14th to 15th, and initial details emerged then. A pro-Ukrainian cartographic service noted that the Russian army managed to secure positions in the settlement. It is now unclear how Ukrainian units plan to push out the Russian forces. As for December 16th, a significant amount of footage emerged confirming the entry of Russian units into the settlement in large numbers, including lots of equipment and the landing of at least 50 personnel. Additional reinforcement units may have been brought in over the course of the day. In the footage, we can see a large amount of Russian equipment entering Novy Komar from the north. Later, on December 16th, another video was published, this time by Ukrainian sources, showing Ukrainian units striking Russian positions with FPV drones after losing control of Novy Komar. These strikes targeted parts of the Russian forces that had not yet fully consolidated their positions. The first video, as you understand, came from the northern part and the second from the southern part. Based on these two pieces of footage, we update the map in favor of the Russian Federation. It is likely that tomorrow or the day after, the Russian Ministry of Defense will confirm this information. Regarding various sources, even pro-Ukrainian ones have marked the southern part of Novy Komar in favor of the Russian armed forces. Moving on to the settlements of Rozdolna and Bohatyr. Here, Ukrainian units are still trying to regain control of the area and thereby attempt to unblock Velika Novosilka from the north. However, everything currently advancing toward Rozdolna is being destroyed by Russian FPV drones. Over the past 24 hours, a significant amount of footage has been published showing Russian FPV drones targeting counterattacking units of the Ukrainian armed forces attempting to advance southward from Bohatyr toward Rozdolna. Additionally, in Rozdolna, there has been a slight adjustment to the map. A video surfaced showing FPV strikes on the northwestern part of the settlement. It seems that the Ukrainian armed forces control both the northwestern part of Rozdolny and a company strongpoint slightly to the west. However, advancing further is not currently a priority for Russian forces in this area. The main focus remains on Velika Novosilka. Based on the current developments around this settlement, it can be concluded that the situation for Ukrainian forces will likely deteriorate further in the near future. Next, we move to the Kurakov direction, where perhaps the most significant news is coming from. Here, a large number of icons and flags are visible on the map. Despite the fact that the Kurakov pocket remains relatively large, the AFU still maintain a presence in settlements such as Yantarne, parts of Konstantinopolski, Hihant, Ulakli, Kurakov, Dakne, and a significant number of strongpoints. However, all these positions and strategic defensive lines become meaningless if Russian forces manage to establish control over one specific square. I've added this square to the map. It's the small section of road located between the settlements of Konstantinopolski and Ulakli. If Russian units establish any kind of control over this area, whether artillery, drone, or physical control, the entire Kurakov direction will collapse instantly. It will effectively form a cauldron, and the defense of this area will lose all purpose. Judging by the situation, this seems to be the objective that Russian units are now pursuing in this direction. Since this morning, Ukrainian sources have been expressing significant concern over reports of a serious breakthrough and advancement by Russian forces. Pro-Ukrainian cartographic services have adjusted their maps, indicating that during a rapid offensive, Russian forces have advanced to the settlement of Zelenivka and surrounded it almost entirely. Reportedly, all forested areas around the settlement have come under Russian control. While Zelenivka may still remain under AFU control, the settlement is now blocked, with no possibility of rotation or resupply of ammunition. This information was later confirmed by neutral and pro-Russian cartographic services. Let's look at the dynamics for a clearer picture. 2 days ago, the map showed Russian forces securing positions on the outskirts of the Kaichi-Suki Yali River, with their forward positions still several kilometers from Zelenivka. By the end of December 16, pro-Ukrainian services showed a significant Russian advance, with forces reaching the vicinity of Zelenivka and Ulakli from the south. The current distance from Zelenivka to the critical section of road is now less than 3 kilometers. Why is this road key? The entire Kurakov direction and the Kurakov pocket are situated between 2 rivers. The first is the Suki Yali River, where active combat is ongoing. Recently, the Russian Ministry of Defense reported the capture of Yelizavetivka, followed by Anivka yesterday, with Russian fortified positions established along the Suki Yali River. The second river is the Vovcha River, which runs along the northern flank of the Kurakov Reservoir. Looking at the map, these are large rivers that cannot be easily crossed. While certain sections might be fordable, other parts are wide and require specialized equipment, such as pontoon bridges, to cross. The Suki Yali flows into the Vovcha, which then branches out and runs along the northern edge of the Kurakov Reservoir and the Kurakov direction. Historically, the AFU used several roads within the Kurakov pocket to maintain supply lines. One road went through the settlement of Stary Terny. But recently footage was published showing units of the 114th Brigade of the Russian Armed Forces completely clearing this settlement and raising their flag there. This leaves no doubt that the AFU has lost the ability to use this road for supplies or communication with the outside. The northern lid of the pocket has effectively been closed. Now, returning to Zelenivka, this was the last stronghold and fortified position for the AFU along the Suki Yali River that also served as a supply route to the rest of the pocket. According to the latest updates from the Deep State Mapping Service, Ukrainian forces have now lost control over this road as well. This leaves just one remaining road leading from the Konstantinopolsky area, crossing a small bridge, continuing to Ulakli, passing through the settlement of Dakne, and eventually reaching the Kurakov power plant. Given this geography, it can be assumed that if Russian forces deploy FPV drones and establish full fire control over this area, the fate of the Kurakov pocket will be sealed. Regardless of any further reports about the pace of Russian advances, this will effectively mark the end of the Kurakov grouping. If Russian forces gain control over the N15 highway, the fate of the Kurakov pocket will be predetermined, regardless of subsequent developments. This seems to be the primary objective set by Russian command at this time. Next, we move to the Pokrovsky direction, where there are also reports of gradual advances by the Russian armed forces. who are pushing through the Ukrainian defenses and storming the settlement of Ukrainka. Reports and footage confirm the presence of Russian units advancing further towards Slavyanka. In this area, footage from the Ukrainian side shows FPV drone strikes on Russian equipment. Additionally, in the vicinity of Ukrainka, a video was published showing a Russian tank operating at the front line. In this footage, the tank drives onto a minefield and explodes. This confirms that all territory behind this tank at the time the video was taken was already under the control of Russian forces. Novotroitske reports indicate further consolidation of Russian units along the forest belt between Novotroitske and Novovasilivka. Currently, efforts are being made to expand the bridgehead, after which an operation to encircle Novovasilivka itself is expected to begin. In the near future, however, active combat operations might not be expected, as intense clashes are ongoing in Shevchenko. The Ukrainian side is counterattacking actively following the arrival of their new commander in this sector, Tarnavsky. It seems there are still reserves and reinforcements available. Footage has also emerged showing another instance of an FPV drone strike on Ukrainian forward positions along this forest belt, which as of a few days ago was marked on most maps as being under Russian control. This confirms the presence of Ukrainian forces in the area. For now, the Russian army does not plan to advance actively north of Shevchenko. The current task is to straighten the front line, which will align along the settlements of Shevchenko, Novyi Trud, Zelenyi, Dachinske, and Lysivka. These settlements are currently the priority targets for Russian units. Various cartographic services, including pro-Ukrainian and neutral ones, confirm that Russian forward units have entered the southern outskirts of Dachinske. At the moment, intense fighting is underway, and there are reports of an expansion of Russian control along the railway from Novohorodivka toward Mirnohrad. According to this information, the distance between the Russian army's forward positions and the settlement of Mirnohrad along the railway is now less than 1.5 kilometers. Next, we move to the Toretsk direction. A significant amount of footage has surfaced today, confirming the presence of Russian forces both in the spoil heaps near the Toretsk central mine and at the industrial facility itself. Based on these materials, this area has now been definitively marked as under the control of Russian forces. The AFU retains control over only a few residential blocks and some older spoil heaps, possibly from Soviet-era mines. The only more or less significant object still under Ukrainian control is the Toretsk mine, located in the northernmost part of the settlement. Throughout December, multiple videos have been published showing Russian strikes, including FAB strikes, targeting this mine. This indicates preparations for eventual assault operations in this area. It's worth noting that at the beginning of December, footage emerged showing controlled demolitions of tall structures at the mine. The goal of these demolitions was likely to prevent these structures from falling into Russian hands during the assault. In general, this direction seems to be gradually preparing for surrender, and this may happen in the near future. Now moving to the Siversk direction. Yesterday, reports indicated that the Russian army had launched a large-scale offensive here. Today, this information was indirectly confirmed by the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense. They released statistics on key directions based on the number of clashes, revealing that over the past 24 hours, the number of engagements in the Siversk direction exceeded the total number of clashes from November 1st to December 12th by 55 times. In other words, the number of Russian attacks in just the last few days of December is far greater than during the entire previous month. This suggests that something significant is unfolding here. However, since neither the Ukrainian nor the Russian side has yet published any objective control footage, it can be concluded that the current situation represents a struggle for initiative, with neither side yet able to decisively claim it.